SiriusXM has over 100 extra channels on the SiriusXM app, filled with ad-free music made for everything you do. Mashup channels, workout channels, channels for parties, or just chilling out and more. Expertly curated for any mood, occasion, or activity. Extra channels let you discover new music and enjoy even more variety from every decade and music style you love. Plus, you can watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows with SiriusXM Video. And you can do it all along with listening in your car as part of our music and entertainment plan. Right now, we're offering SiriusXM subscription plans for as low as $6 a month, plus fees and taxes. Call 844-711-8800 to find out more about these amazing offers.
Imagine a long road trip where the designated DJ isn't forced to flip from station to station, avoiding commercials and trying desperately to find a signal. Where you're not forced to resort to endless rounds of the license plate game to kill time. Stop imagining and start listening to commercial-free music from nearly every genre, coast to coast. Subscribe to SiriusXM and your music stays with you, whether you hit the interstate or take the back roads. Call 844-711-8800 to activate your radio now.
Hey everyone, it's your friend John Mayer here. Genres aren't rock or pop or hip-hop. They're real genres of life. They're like Mondays, dinner with family, songs I remember from junior high. And that's what you're going to get on Life with John Mayer. It's my music, it's everyone else's music. It's singing in the shower and a quiet night at home. Come along with me as I play music that fits the moments of your life as they happen. On now, Channel 14, and on the SiriusXM app.
To hear this channel, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/go.
You deserve the best. With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada. With a tour of spring training.
Baseball is back.
Hear interviews with all-stars.
This is Mookie Betts.
This is Matt Olson.
I'm Adley Rutschman.
I'm Aaron Judge.
And insights and analysis of all 30 teams.
When I look at this rotation, I see it competing with some of the best rotations in baseball.
Listen to your favorite team's preview show on MLB Network Radio, Channel 89 in the car, or anytime on the all-new SiriusXM app.
There you go now.
I think I'm
Oh, let's see. There you go now.
I think I'm
Oh, let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 0184868.
Grande Deportes, bonjour, vidi vidi vici, let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe. And that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Today is February 26th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord spent you, if that makes sense to you, and learn to protect your assets. That's why you wear your seatbelt. say wear your seatbelt so you can protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. Really do appreciate that. I want to say what a great day. It is the final Monday in 2024. It's leap year. There's 29 days in this month. Give that some praise. Give it praise. Really do appreciate that. I love coming to you live with Big C Sports Podcast all around the universe on 29 podcast applications. Also streaming on 4 TV applications: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you might be sitting there looking at a still picture. I love saying with Big C Sports Podcast, there's something that I love doing, and I do it for every show. It's called a PSA. It's for our Veterans Crisis Hotline, because they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, I'm telling you, they're there to help you. I know oftentimes in dealing with people in day-to-day activity, we run across people that say they're veterans, but sometimes they have their own issues. What I want to do with the Big C team is make sure that I give them a place to call. What did Luke Campbell say? He said there's no place like home. That was Dorothy at the Wizard of Oz, Big C. Okay, same thing. They both say there's no place like home. But you know any veterans going through issues, their experience helping veterans and their loved ones get help. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And that's what I love with the Big C team. It's nice when you can lean on somebody. And they say actually somebody's leaning back. So give leaning back some praise too. We all need that. And I love doing that for our veterans. Oftentimes we think that they can do things on their own, and maybe they can. But when you think about it, people go through issues, and I love giving out that Veterans Crisis Hotline. Also want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. And I do believe, and let there be light. My goodness, had a great training today, learning how to protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. You know, sometimes they have what's called liability insurance, and a business has to have it, because if you don't, there's sometimes where attorneys will come after you because you haven't learned to protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. I got a story that I got to tell, but I want to make sure that I do it at the right time, because some things have been happening this weekend that have just been miraculous to me. And I'm so grateful and appreciative of things that have happened. I always want to make sure that I give God praise when that happens. It's not just about me. It's about things that can happen to you when you feel like, I guess you can feel like you're aligned. And I do feel like I've been aligned a lot lately, and I really do appreciate that. But over the weekend, I decided I would go to church service on a Sunday. And of course, Sunday, Big C. Some churches have 3 or 4 services throughout the week. But I decided to go on Sunday. And when I went there, I had the pastor, he had someone come up and talk to me. And from that conversation, he said, Pastor wants to talk to you. Now, there are probably about a good 150 people in the church, holds about maybe 300. And to me, I didn't know why. And so when one of the pastors, I guess one of the deacons came over and said, Pastor wants to talk to you. So I went over and said, okay, and I sat next to him, and he said, where you been? I said, I've been out working. And he said, I want you to make an appointment with my secretary, I think he said on Monday. And then I said, okay. And then, because he wanted to talk about whatever. And then after the service was over, he asked me, what was I doing? And I said, getting ready for work. I had a training coming up today. And then he said, well, why don't you follow me to my other service across town? And I said, well, I don't know if I can do it. He said, okay, well, make a call on Monday anyway. So I just said, you know what, let me get up and go. So I went to the next service across town, about another 20 minutes across town. And I was walking up after I parked. Someone said, Mr. Curry? And I said, yes. He said, the pastor's right over here. He wants to see you. And I said, how'd you know who I was? He said, oh, we were told to look out for you. I said, oh, okay. And long story short, as I walked inside, to meet with the pastor, he was there with about 20 other people. And the pastor said, well, I said to the pastor when he was asking people to raise their hand, ask a question, I said, what made you want to talk to me and have me come over and talk to you? And he said, well, I've been praying over you, which is a good thing. And he said, I've been praying over you. And he said, he said, ask me any question you want to ask. And I told him that I'm looking to help 1,000 insurance and real estate brokers go to work and with the Big C team. And I gave him a flyer. Oh my God, I got to backtrack because that morning when I woke up, I was saying to myself, I wanted to get this information into my pastor's hands. Think about it. All I said was, God, I want to get this information into my pastor's hands. And when I walked and got into the church, he had sent someone up to ask for me to come talk to him. I'm telling you what happened. And so I gave him the chance to, well, obviously he gave me the chance to say what I had a question about. And I told him I want to help people go to work. And he said, so what are you doing? I said, well, I do a sports show and I also do financial services. We have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. And we deal with long-term care solutions by the book that was signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson back in 1966. In fact, Dr. King was with him. And I know a lot of people come to you, Pastor, when they need help or they need money. Well, here's a chance to help them. And we know there's been a big settlement with CalPERS. And so I gave them the flyer. It's an RDC flyer. And it's put together by Ray De La Cruz. And ironically, the pastor said, well, let me give it to my banker. He gave it to his banker that I actually sat down next to when I went to the church. And then they want to call me on Tuesday. I told him I couldn't meet with him on Monday because I had a training coming up. But I could definitely talk to him on a Tuesday. I want you to give that some praise. All I did was say to God I wanted to get that flyer to him. And he said someone asked me to come up and talk to him. And I want to say it's important because if you understand the CalPERS in California, they've had a settlement. I know it's a sports show, but it's for a lot of athletes too, because oftentimes a lot of athletes have a problem keeping their money because for various reasons it's not protected. You would think that sports agents would have them protected, but oftentimes it's not. And so when the pastor gave me the chance to give him the flyer, I wrote his name on the flyer with my name and phone number. And he said, give it to my banker. Before I left that service, someone sat down to me and said, we want to call you on Monday. I said, I'm busy Monday. They said, well, how about Tuesday? I said, oh yeah, Tuesday can work. And I'm telling you what happened. All I did was give them a flyer. It's a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And based on that, pastor's willing to meet with me. And obviously, you can't tell people that they don't know the options once they see with the Big C team. Give that some praise. I'm just so excited about things that are happening in my life. And I just wanted to make sure that I got that information out there. I want to also say what I do with Big C Sports Podcast. Oh my goodness, I just had another epiphany. I'm part of the National Black Wall Street Project, co-chair, Northern California chapter in the capital city of California. And ironically, when I talk about some things with reparations, there's more and more coming on board that makes me realize that I've been prescient. And when you're prescient, it's about having extreme knowledge of things before they happen. And there are times when people say, "Oh, Big C, you're gonna look like a fool," talking about reparations and helping people to protect their assets. Well, I don't look like a fool. I got the credibility from the Associated Press. They wrote an article on Big C Sports, March 30th, 2023. It says Charlton Curry of Sacramento, California, who discusses reparations on his Big C Sports podcast. It says that cash payments are necessary. And I'm gonna go into something today that's so powerful because I've been doing this for 5 years. And now you have people at the highest level in California. I was talking about reparations before California Governor Gavin Newsom even mandated a commission to study reparations. and now it's making up so much more traction. And when I get into what I'm going to talk about today, you'll realize that the Big C team was more prescient than a lot of media that's just not coming around today. And I want to give that some praise. I want to give it praise, because I believe in either you lead, you follow, or you get out of the way. In our sports athletes, you're going to understand. In fact, you already understand. In fact, you overstand what I'm going to talk about today. But I'm the only sports show in the universe that honors reparations. It's so important. I want to thank Tony Harvey from Black Media, who came today and did an interview at a meeting with RDC Consulting. And he also spoke with Double O, part of the PR committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She has her own finance channel, and giving her some praise. I want to give her praise for that, educating people on matters of finance and how to put things in the right perspective, also helping people with a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. And so I wanted to give her a shout out, Double O, and also as part of the PR committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. And I want to thank Camila Moore. She's the chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, and I beg your pardon, she's the chair of the California Reparations Task Force, but she's been interviewed by Double O of the National Black Wall Street Project, so I want to make sure I put that in there right. I want to give Camila Moore some praise. I want to give some praise to Dr. Amos C. Brown. He's the vice chair of the California Reparations Task Force. I met him last time at a restaurant. We were going into a restaurant called Fixins, and I just finished fixing to tear up some collard greens. And when he got out of the car, I said, Mr. Brown? He said, Mr. Curry. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm fixing to tear up some collard greens. And I said, well, they may have a few left you can scrape together because I got thirds, if that makes sense to you. I love giving them praise. I want to give praise to the number one senator in the United States of America. His name is California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's also responsible for name, image, and likeness. He also helps sponsor the Ebony Alert to help law enforcement put the same amount of resources into finding black children that go missing as they put into finding white children that go missing. And he's also a part of the California Reparations Task Force. And he also put Senate Bill 490 in the California legislation. That's for reestablishing Freedmen's Bureau. It was a bank that was established originally in 1865 by President Abraham Lincoln for the descendants of child of slavery to have a bank account. So I love giving him praise. And I've met with him many times, going to meet with him again soon. I want to give praise to Council Member Monica Montgomery Stephanie. She's brilliant. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I'm going to give praise to Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I'm going to give praise to her attorney, Lisa Holder. She's brilliant, part of the California Reparations Task Force. I want to give praise to Dr. Devon Scott Lewis. He's, I'm telling you, professor at California Berkeley, also part of the California Reparations Task Force. And I want to give praise to our attorney, Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force. As a Japanese American, he also received reparations for Japanese internment and internment camps. Give them all praise. I love giving them praise. And I'm going to tell you, I want to thank Double O. She's the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. Sent me an order, Executive Order 13985, on further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's called the White House. And I really appreciate that. I want to give praise to Senators Marco Rubio and Rick Scott of Florida that reintroduced the Holocaust survivors' rights to Congress. They did that last year in the summer. I want to thank Georgetown University because they issued reparations to 272 families that were sold off to build Georgetown. They issued $1 billion and counting. Yeah, they were sold. They were sold off to pay the debts for Georgetown. Anyone ever sell your children to pay off their debts? I say, anyone ever sell your children to pay off their debts? Well, Georgetown University did. And I want to give them some praise for trying to make a wrong a right now. I want to thank Double O, Payout Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. Also has her own talk show, and she was interviewed by Black Media today. But she sent me this article from the United Nations. It said that strong leadership and political will are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for people of African descent. That's important. I want to thank This is T-Mobile, America's largest 5G network, proud sponsor of the Big C Sports. I want to give them some praise. I want to thank PNC Private Bank, proud sponsors of Big C Sports. I won $6 billion, and I want to give them praise. I'm not shucking and jiving. You know, I talked about the Freedmen's Bank. You can Google it. It was created March 3rd, 1865 by President Abraham Lincoln, known as Freedmen's Savings and Trust Company. It was established in 1865 and it folded because of corruption in 1874. So Freedmen's Bank, I know you want to know who won the game, but we're all going to win the game when you finish listening to Big C Sports today, because I'm going to tell you how to protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. Freedmen's Bank, chartered by the United States Congress March 3rd, 1865, to provide a place for former slaves to safely store their money. After several successful years in which freedmen deposited more than $60 million in the bank, it collapsed in 1874 as a result of mismanagement and fraud. Think about that. The bank's failure not only robbed many African Americans of their savings. You ever been robbed, but also had a severe psychological impact on them, causing many to give up hopes and dreams that went along with their savings and bringing about a general distrust of financial institutions. It was created after the Civil War. And the reason it was created is because the white banks would not take black soldiers' money. And Lincoln let black soldiers join the Union Army, said if you help us win the Civil War, grant them the freedom. The Emancipation Proclamation was born out of that. But think about what happened. I gotta say this because you can Google it. In 1865, John W. Alvord, a congressional minister, and Anson M. Sperry, a United States Army paymaster, they individually identified that need and attempted to foster the creation of such an institution in early 1865. Now, Alford's efforts culminated in the legislation that was passed by Congress March 3rd, 1865, that incorporated Freedmen's Savings and Trust Company as a non-profit financial institution. And then President Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president, he immediately signed the bill into law. Immediately. He didn't ask for a task force to study it for 2 years. He did it immediately. And the bank's money deposited was to be invested in stocks, bonds, and treasury notes and other securities in the United States. However, unlike a conventional bank, Freedmen's Bank was forbidden to make loans for the black Americans, descendants of chattel slavery. It operated as sort of a cooperative. Each depositor owned a share of the bank's assets in proportion to his or her deposit. A board of 50 white trustees were named to manage the bank's affairs, and they stole the money. Stole all of it. You cannot get a loan on your own money. They refused to protect their assets. Now, I'm doing a commercial called Asset Protection. Aflac the duck. That's Gap Insurance. I'm doing a commercial with the Big C team of protecting your assets, if that makes sense to you. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's important. It's more important than who won a game. I'm going to get into the NBA power rankings also. But I got to tell you something. It's more important that I let you hear it as opposed to tell you.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
You got to understand, and you got to get some praise to Dr. King. I know a lot of people say they love Dr. King and how great a man he was, but he spoke the truth. And the truth is, we get so, I guess, distracted by sports and who won a game that we don't think about what Dr. King was about. I want to play something right now by a presidential candidate because Dr. King talked about going to get our check. I want you to hear something that just happened over the weekend, and you gotta use your own mind when you hear about what I'm going to tell you. Because it's not about me, it's about what you hear with your own eyes. Listen to this.
The black population, I am being indicted for a lot of different groups.
Yeah, that's real. Donald Trump spoke at an event hosted by an organization called the Black Conservative Federation in Columbia, South Carolina. The Black Conservative Federation is led by someone who also runs an organization called Black Voices for Trump. This is one of the most unhinged, racist, weird speeches I've ever seen. Let's just go through it here. Donald Trump says that the reason that he can relate to black people is because he got indicted. Here, play this clip.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. But
yeah, that's actually not AI. That's actually what he said. Here, he basically says that again. Play the clip.
I think that's why the black people are so much on my side now, because they see what's happening to me happens to them. Does that make sense? I've heard that. When I did the mugshot in Atlanta, you know that mugshot is number one. Elvis Presley's number two, and Frank Sinatra's. They had Frank Sinatra for fighting, and they had Elvis for, I don't know, something in a gas station. He tried to hold up a gas station. I don't know, something. Elvis. So Elvis is number two, but he was always number one. The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing. Millions, by the way, millions of these things have been.
Here, Donald Trump asks the audience at the Black Conservative Federation in South Carolina if they know Cary Grant and Sidney Poitier.
I'm not sure that Cary Grant, do you know Cary Grant? He was this very handsome guy. I'm going to put it more on this. Sidney Poitier, I thought he was very handsome, right? When he was 81, I'm not sure he looked great in a bathing suit. I don't know if anybody looks too great in a bathing suit at 81. What do you think? Maybe these guys look good in a bathing suit. But
talks about whether you'd rather have a white president or a black president, and play the clip.
Les, would you rather have the black president or the white president who got $1.7 billion off the price? I think they want the white guy right now.
He talks about vanilla and chocolate ice cream. Play the clip.
Think of this. Jim from NBC. And he's like, yes. Mr. President, what's your favorite color of the ice cream and flavor of the ice cream? Okay. Then he picks up a card and he reads the answer. My favorite color is black. But my favorite ice cream is vanilla. Yeah.
He then talks about how he has more people after his ass than anyone. Play the clip.
I have more people after my ass than anybody. I don't think there's ever been a criminal, the worst criminal in history has not had the kind of attention that I've had.
Then he talks about how the lights are very bright and therefore this is who he can see in the audience. Play the clip.
Good. These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see. That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. We've come a long way together. Lynn Patton.
Here he talks about the cognitive moments he has where he mixes up people's names. Like he calls Biden Obama, and he says that he loves to interchange. Play the clip.
Being sarcastic, I interchange names all the time. Every time I interchange a name, and I do it in sarcasm, every time I interchange a name, they say, Donald Trump didn't know this one from that one. I know exactly what the hell I'm... Don't forget, I'm up here now rapping to you guys for 45 minutes without any notes.
Here he talks about other names that he was thinking about giving his social media platform. Play the clip.
They had all these different names, these crazy names that nobody understood. And, like Zion, Zionining, Dodong, Dadang. 5 letters, I said.
Some really weird stuff right there. Really racist stuff. Really just some real strange stuff. Let's take a look at some of the comments that we received. Someone writes, this is from our post on our Instagram account. One person writes, so he's basically saying black people are criminals like him? Another person writes, Trump was sued for discrimination against black people and lost. Daryl writes, this is offensive. All black people haven't been to jail or indicted or had 91 felony charges personally, have never been arrested. Michael writes, garbage. Corey writes, black people don't like you, sir, 100. Another comment, did he just compare himself to the black struggle in America? WTF. Another comment we received, remember when Trump wouldn't rent to black people, got sued and convicted of being racist, or when he said the Central Park 5 should have the death penalty, even though they were proved innocent? Another comment, this dude is really taking us for a joke and laughing in our faces. Another comment, I cannot stand this moron. Another statement that we got, I wonder how those black MAGA folks feel about this. Another comment we received, like fingernails on a chalkboard, this verbal diarrhea is old, tired, and needs to just go away for good. Another comment we received, it's official, they're no longer using dog whistles, they're just putting it right out there. I cannot believe any person of conscience would vote for him. His voters are truly deplorable. Another comment, 3 words, Central Park 5. Another comment, Central Park 5 may feel differently. Another comment, and you and Daddy were among those people who discriminated against black people. Another response, quote, the black people? Good grief. Another response, I'm half white, half black, and I would rather die than vote for him. Another comment we received, I'm sure the, quote, black people are really digging him. Stuart Beckham points out, the Trump administration replaced the Affirmatively Fair Housing Act with a new rule that made it harder for communities to offer public comments about the new fair housing rules. This essentially made black public invisible when it came to overhauling fair housing policy. Sebastian Smith writes, no longer comparing himself to dead Russian dissidents.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against.
Now, for anybody that wants to have their own comment, as we're stuck in sports and we can't wait to get someone to play another sports game, that I just heard you just had the chance to hear Dr. King's speech about next time we go to Washington, we're going to get our check. And then you get to hear POTUS 45 say his thoughts on black Americans, African Americans, at a conservative black convention. And I'm talking about reparations. And you see how some people look at African Americans. It's such an insulting conversation. But for some people, I don't understand it. Everybody has their own opinion. But you only hear that on Big C Sports. And that's why I'm asking for decent people, especially our black athletes and entertainers, because black news media is doing it. But at some point in time, if it's that easy to have so many indictments against you, housing discrimination against African Americans, and then conservative black groups and invite them to come in and talk to them? What's the point? Someone's going to come into you and tell you can't rent for me, but I'll come to your event and ask you to vote for me. I don't understand it, but a lot of people have their own opinions about why. Because we're so focused on sports. And when the housing discrimination happened, he lost his lawsuit. They would not rent to people considered African American. He would not protect their assets. And I just want you to think about that because he's trying to ask you to vote for him again. It's a shame. But people can do what they want to do. I want to say with Big C, give me some praise for even bringing that up. I want to just say before I get into some NBA power rankings, the reason I love working with the RDC Consulting Inc., Long-Term Care Solutions by the Book, over 3 decades of experience, a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, protection of your assets. Your family can avoid the spin down for California nursing home costs. Find out your options. Our promise to you, we specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets, if that makes sense to you. Without a spin down in California, all paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescriptions, medical equipment costs, and more. Protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program, which can be up to 40%, and a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums. You got to give that some praise. I said give it praise. It's important that you know. Well, people say, well, why did we join you, Big C? Because our program has some of the top endorsements. Not only did we offer what President Lyndon Johnson signed into law with civil rights in 1966. Dr. Martin Luther King was right there with him. We're endorsed by Attorney George Jones, ESQ, Chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Mr. Leon Woods, Resource Development Consulting, one of the top lobbyists in California, Ms. Cheryl Brown, the Chair of the California Department or Commission on Aging, Mr. Ray De La Cruz, CEO of Resource Development Consulting, Mr. Alex De La Cruz, founder of American Veteran Benefits, and Charlton Curry of the Big C team, which is a national business development consultant with RDC. Give that some praise. I'm telling you, work with everybody to help them protect their assets, if that makes sense to you. I just want to make sure I get that out there. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. I want to tell you something that happened because I'm such a proponent of reparations. You got to hear Dr. King in his eloquent speech about overcoming hatred and bigotry and xenophobia. And then you heard POTUS 45 making fun of the black conservatives that are going to try to vote for him. Right in their face. I told you about Freedman's Bank. You know where athletes put their money? They put it in a bank or they put it in an annuity. Most of them in an annuity. But what makes Big C Sports credible in talking about reparations? Number one, the Associated Press wrote an article about Big C Sports, about sports and reparations. That gives us some credibility. But this is so powerful because it came out Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. It says, progressives push President Biden to act on reparations and racial justice before the 2024 election. I told you, 00 sent me this article, 13985, executive order, that he had put out there. He signed his first day in office. But now today is February 26, 2024. In a letter, members of Congress and social justice organizations led by Representative Barbara Lee called on the president to take decisive action, decisive executive action, the same way Abraham Lincoln did when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, this is why Big C Sports is so credible. All those other guys shucking and driving, ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, NBC Sports, ABC Sports, they will not tell you this. They're part of the shuck and jive community. Now, members of Congress and a coalition of social justice and civil rights groups are calling on President Joe Biden to use his executive powers to address a host of racial issues just ahead of the 2024 elections. Give that some praise. It's not just the Big C team. It's not just me. I'm not the only one talking about this stuff. It's a lot of people who are very smart and erudite and well-educated. Because if we don't do it, then who's going to do it? It's so important. I want to give that some praise again. I said give it praise, praise, praise. Because if we can do this, then eventually we will have the chance to get what we were promised, that 40 acres and a mule. That's so important, people. Now, in a letter sent to the White House on President's Day, United States Representative Barbara Lee, Democrat of California, Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat of Texas, Cori Bush, Democrat, Missouri, Jamal Bowman, Democrat, New York, they urged President Biden to use his executive powers to advance the movement for reparations, to safeguard black history, and to protect the voting rights, among other requests. You got to give that some praise. I'm telling you, that's why Big C Sports is so in the top 100 of 251,000 podcasts on iHeartRadio podcast alone. Imagine when other black brethren started saying this, because it's happening. I'm telling you, it's been happening. The Progressive House members were joined in solidarity with 200 organizations led by the National Black Justice Coalition, United Equity, and Black Music Action Coalition, also National Black Wall Street Project.com, that I'm a co-chair of in Northern California, as well as Double O Payout Committee and Brother Aleem Shabazz, co-chair. The inimitable Reverend Tony Pierce, President and CEO of National Black Wall Street Project. For far too long, the scars and trauma of racial inequity have marred the United States and hindered our nation's progress. And the letter read, our collective history necessitates rectifying the wrongs of the past, present, and forging a future where equity and justice are lived realities for all. Now, unlike most guys that want to talk about touchdown, home run, three-point play, old man Willie, he's going all the way. Now, it's knocking on your front door. Are you going to turn your back on it? The correspondence includes, you just heard what POTUS 45 said about black Americans, African Americans. He said the lights are finally bright enough I can see the black people. The correspondence includes a list of legislation, and resolutions introduced by Democrats in Congress that Republican lawmakers have stalled. Did you hear me? They've stalled it. What does stalled mean, Big C? Google it. The bill includes H.R. 40, which created a Reparations Commission to study the impacts of U.S. slavery, and the companion resolution that would establish a United States Commission on Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. It includes other bills like a resolution recognizing Banned Books Week, the African American History Act. This is Black History Month. I'm going to call it Black History Day. Every day is Black History Day. All life came from Africa. To preserve black history and culture. And comprehensive voting rights legislation named after the late civil rights leader, United States Representative John R. Lewis. If you see something wrong, say something, do something. He was across the Headman Pettis Bridge when he had his head busted open, but he kept fighting. And then Representative Lee, Jackson Lee, Bush, Bowman, among others, with hundreds of social and civil rights organizations, including Big C Sports, said the array of legislation was historic and required robust support and decisive action to move it from potential to reality. We call upon the White House, just like President Lincoln in creating Freedmen's Bank, we call upon the White House to lend its considerable power to this cause. And the coalition urged the President Biden, we ask for executive actions like Lincoln signed in the law Freedmen's Bank, March 3rd, 1865. We ask President Biden for executive actions and orders aligning with the supporting of these legislative efforts to achieve racial equity and reparative justice. He's already given President Zelensky $110 billion. Now he's trying to give him another $60 billion. He needs to sign reparations. He needs to sign reparations now. Reparations forever. Because when it's time for the vote, he's going to ask African Americans for the vote. He's not going to ask President Zelensky. The statement provided to the Griot, Congresswoman Lee said that despite the Republican majority in the House, this Congress it says, my colleagues and I are fighting for critical racial legislation and justice. The current Democratic candidate for the United States Senate in California said President Biden has the power to advance and implement the racial justice agenda laid out in the letter. Systemic racism continues to plague this nation as it has for centuries, added Lee. It's past time that federal government prioritize proposals to begin repairing the harm done to people of color in this country. African Americans, Lee said the congressional colleagues have been working alongside organizations and racial justice leaders who have been doing the work of advocating for policy change on the ground. In recent years, Republican governors have targeted black history and how race is taught in classrooms and have defunded diversity programs designed to promote diversity and equity on college campuses. Do you hear that? As we stand up for the kickoff, after the United States Supreme Court ruled last year against race-based affirmative action, like the Homestead Act of 1862 that gave white Americans over 300 million acres of land, and even white Europeans, you know they just killed race-based affirmative action. In college admissions, other lawsuits emerged challenging the legality of the diversity and equity programs in business and healthcare. Think about that, people, as we're standing up for the kickoff. And can't wait to say, light the beam! Light the beam! Light the beam! They're killing off diversity programs for African Americans to go to college. We didn't get the equity buildup of the Homestead Act that was given to white Americans in 1862. Over 300 million acres. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, according to Einstein. The 1.4 of the $14 trillion wealth gap, where do you think it came from? So though President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have often condemned conservative efforts to ban books and modify African American history as taught in schools, racial justice advocates want them to go even further. Marcus Anthony Hunter, Executive Director of United by Equity, worked closely with Representative Lee on crafting and advocating for some of the legislation that he and the coalition of leaders are calling for President Biden to act on through executive actions. He's going to ask for the vote coming up. You already know it. He signed the crime bill a lot faster than he signed any reparations bill. Now, Hunter told the Griot that the letter was an intentional call to action after noticing the White House appeared to be kicking the can down the road and postponing plans to meet with Congresswoman Lee and other advocates. This despite having had previous meetings with the White House, the Biden and Harris transition team following the 2020 election. 72 million plus voters voted for President Biden and Harris administration. And that was in large part due to the promises and ideas about equity, particularly following George Floyd's and Breonna Taylor's tragic death. Said Hunter, who worked with Lee on a resolution calling for the establishment of the United States Commission on Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. This is more important than the game. And if we could get our beautiful, intelligent athletes and entertainers to just pay attention, support California Senator Stephen Bradford. Sheila Jackson Lee will support it. The idea of a Truth Commission sees as a companion to the Reparations Commission that would be created with the passing of H.R. 40 comes from the research conducted by Dr. Gail C. Christopher at the Kellogg Foundation. Academic research found that the idea of reconciliation is not applicable in America, said Hunter, because reconcile usually means returning to a space where equality, where we know with enslavement there was no space to return to that. You have to have racial healing and transformation. It's called reparations now, reparations forever. That's so important. Despite inaction in Congress, states like California and New York, and cities like St. Louis, Detroit, Philadelphia, Boston, Sacramento, San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles have established reparations task force aimed at righting the wrongs of U.S. slavery. You just heard what Protest 45 said about black Americans. He said, these lights are so bright, I can finally see black people. Because if you tacitly consent with what he's saying, President Biden, you won't do anything about it. Because the President Biden and the White House, if you're not speaking about it in any meaningful way, then really, at all, people don't even know that things are happening, said Hunter, who argued that President Biden must use his bully pulpit the same way President Lincoln did and shed light on the efforts to seek repair for the harms caused by United States racism. After H.R. 40 failed to pass Congress, President Biden was previously asked to sign an executive order to create a reparations committee in the absence of legislation. However, the White House has consistently avoided making any such commitment. Speaking to the power of executive order, Hunter recalled history dating back to 1863. Once upon a time, not long ago, a president named Abraham Lincoln, he did an executive order called the Emancipation Proclamation. You heard about it on Big C Sports. You didn't hear about it on ESPN. You didn't hear about it on Fox Sports. You didn't hear about it on NBC Sports or CBS Sports. The Emancipation Proclamation, he recalled, referring to the executive order that called for the end of United States slavery. Hunter added that while you needed the 13th Amendment to make it official, it sets a precedent for the kind of power and influence that a president can yield. You gotta know this is right here as we are breathing. Executive orders aside, Hunter noted that the letter also intentionally calls for President Biden to take executive action, like simply speaking out more publicly about racial justice issues, like reparations and other reparative measures. He mentioned that President's annual State of the Union address March 7th as an opportunity to do so. It's coming up right around the corner, people. People have been agitating to do this work for a long time, locally and regionally, not at the nationwide level. And at the state level, there's been no real mention of it by the president. He noted it would be reinvigorating to all of those cities and towns and states that have been doing this very hard work, thankless work, without any recognition from the federal government about its importance. Well, you heard what POTUS 45 said about black folks. He said the lights are so bright he can finally see black people at a black caucus. Now listen up, people, as they ask you for the vote. The polls continue to suggest that President Biden and Vice President Harris have more convincing to do for black voters, African-American voters, ahead of the 2024 election. This, to me, is like a slam dunk. You got to sign reparations, you'll be reelected easily. Advocates saying on the agenda presented by his recent letter to the president would signal to African-American voters that the administration has their backs, as President Biden promised he would do after their historic election victory in 2020. The President Biden-Kamala Harris administration has everything to gain by advancing an agenda that is framed by equity, said David J. Johns, executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, who also led the letter to the president on behalf of organizations. Johns said all 11 pieces of legislation and resolutions listed in the letter to Biden are equally important and should be advanced swiftly. I can only say so much, but you gotta know this is more important than light the beam. Light the beam. The President Biden and Harris administration, they had everything to gain by this. But he rejected any legal concerns about Biden acting unilaterally on racial justice issues. The Supreme Court was very decisive. They said affirmative action gives us an advantage. Is that crazy? They did it anyway, as we're waiting, standing up for the kickoff. Everything that the president has done since the first day in office, Executive Order 13985, it has been challenged. He added we should expect at this point for some people to challenge any political position when you have a position of power to change things. John said it would behoove President Biden to use the levers at his disposal to advance racial justice because they matter to people of color, African Americans, and that's what benefits African Americans, and that's who put him in office. We are demanding in partnership with the current, and I hope continued administration, is an opportunity to work toward us getting closer to freedom and getting closer to reparations now, reparations forever. That's how I'm sticking with it. That's more important than who won a game. I'm gonna finish giving out Big C's NBA Power Rankings Top 10. And you gotta know that our beautiful, intelligent athletes, they see it coming to them. The ability to talk about reparations and just say you support the people who are bolder than you. I got number one in Big C's NBA Power Rankings, the Boston Celtics. They're on a tear. We'll see if they can finish strong and win the East. I got number two, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are the top team right now in the Western Conference. We'll see if they finish out. Number three, Oklahoma City Thunder. You know, they're a young team, but they're very, very athletic. I got the number four, the Los Angeles Clippers in the Western Conference. I got number five, defending NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. Number five in Big C's NBA Power Rankings. I got number six in Big C's NBA Power Rankings, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I got number seven in Big C's NBA Power Rankings, the Dallas Mavericks. They got the great Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I got number 8 in Big C's NBA Power Rankings. The Phoenix Suns, of course, Kevin Durant can do his thing. Number 9 in Big C's NBA Power Rankings. The Milwaukee Bucks with King Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I got number 10 in Big C's NBA Power Rankings, the New York Knickerbockers. Give them all some praise. But imagine if they were to stand up in a chapter for reparations. You know, all of those players, they got to learn to protect their assets. What I do with Big C team. You're looking for work? 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And we have so many great endorsements and opportunities. I'm looking to bring on 1,000 real estate and insurance brokers in 2024 to help protect clients' assets. I'm doing a commercial called Asset Protection. Is it Affleck like the book? No, Asset Protection. It's so important that 2024 is a great year, and I hope that we can all get together, no matter what ethnic group we happen to be. If it's a good thing, it comes from God. And reparations is to repair, and that's a good thing. And I want to give that praise. And I'm telling you, I would love to get some of our actors. One of my favorite actors of all time is the great Denzel Washington. And one of my greatest producers is Spike Lee. Denzel Washington and Spike Lee, they break ground in a 34-year partnership. Denzel Washington and Spike Lee are set to make a movie, and it breaks ground for the first time at their partnership after 34 years. But I know they're in the movies, and I know they're well off, and I respect both of them very much so. Denzel Washington and Spike Lee, they're doing something they've never done before with the upcoming High and Low remake. The actor and director have had a long-lasting partnership over the last 34 years that has brought them incredible success. Although they have not made a movie together since 2006's Inside Man, and they've finally reunited for the challenge of remaking Erica Carosa's thriller High and Low. But I would like to ask these great men. Spike Lee will direct a new take on the movie. The original was set in 1963. That's before the Civil Rights Act was signed into law, with Denzel Washington. And I know people can do what they want to do. And I will go see the movie. But I would love these beautiful, intelligent black men to stand behind California Senator Stephen Bradford and his push for reparations, and Democrat Barbara Lee, as they're asking President Biden to sign reparations now, sign reparations forever, because that benefits all of our people. I feel so vindicated in the fact that I've been talking about sports and reparations for about 5 years now. And some people say, Big C, you gonna sound like a fool talking about reparations. My show is growing all over the world. In Canada, it's growing in Africa. It's growing in Saudi Arabia. It's even growing in Europe, because I speak the truth. And I'm just asking more people, if you believe in what Dr. King stood for, he talked about reparations. President Biden, you're going to be asking for the vote, and we know it, and you know it too. Honor the people that put you in office. Give us as much respect if you gave President Zelensky, and you're still trying to give him $60 billion. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Reparations now, reparations forever. That's what I always take on every Big C Sports. You can stand up for the kickoff, and you can light the beam. But if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off. But don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car after they've been drinking and start driving the life you say may be your own or someone you love. That's my story. I'm taking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If somebody's going upside your head, pick up the phone and call 911. Anyone who loves you would not go upside your head. You need LEADER in your life. LEADER is an acronym for love is the answer. Don't let anybody do that to you. Well, back by popular demand, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, it makes me want to say reparations now, reparations forever. And Then I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. Just like the great Muhammad Ali always said. As I always tell you, I want to give praise to my beautiful family, from my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my beautiful mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Best person I ever met in my life. My beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot. Really do appreciate my dad. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Top, but that bombastic voice sound like thunder and lightning when Top speak. Love Top with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. Love her with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Daisy, my beautiful handsome son Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. You're gonna get reparations. Now you know your daddy's been on the right path, because now you have all these politicians telling President Biden to sign reparations now. Sign reparations forever. It is gonna happen. As I always tell you, always do the best you can and trust God, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Well, this is the time I always honor President Abraham Lincoln and President Joe Biden. Listen to what Dr. King said. He said, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Have to protect the assets of descendants of child slavery. Sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Protecting the assets of all people, especially the descendants of child slavery too. Sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and hope that you have a super fantastic day.